My stepdaughter walked into my living room with a man in an expensive suit and told me I needed to sign my house over to a family trust. "For your own protection, Dad," Lisa said, settling onto the couch like she already owned it. "You're 65 and living alone. What if something happens to you?" I stood by the fireplace, the same spot where I'd stood 32 years ago when I brought Catherine home as my bride, where Lisa used to sit doing homework while I made dinner after my shifts, where we'd celebrated every Christmas morning. The man, Mr. Harrison, apparently an estate planner, opened his briefcase with the kind of efficient movement that was supposed to look professional. What Lisa didn't know, what this stranger in the suit definitely didn't know, was that I'd spent 3 decades running into burning buildings when everyone else was running out. And the people I'd carried out, the families I'd pulled from the flames, the lives I'd helped save across British Columbia, they all remembered me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to how I ended up in this situation, standing in my own home while my stepdaughter tried to take it away from me. I bought this house in 1985. I was 30 years old, had been working as a firefighter for 5 years, and had just received a settlement from the department after a beam fell on me during a warehouse fire. Fractured my shoulder, kept me off active duty for 8 months. The money wasn't much, $40,000 after the lawyers took their cut, but it was enough for a down payment on a small craftsman-style house in East Vancouver. Back then, this neighborhood was working-class families, immigrants starting over, people like me trying to build something. I spent my weekends fixing the place up, refinished the hardwood floors myself, updated the kitchen, built a deck in the backyard. I was proud of that deck. Hand-cut every board, sanded it smooth, treated the wood so it would last. I imagined having friends over for barbecues, maybe a family someday. I'd grown up in foster care. My parents died in a car accident when I was 7, so the idea of having my own place, my own family, meant everything to me. I met Catherine in 1994 at a community fire safety seminar I was teaching. She was a school administrator, recently divorced, raising her 12-year-old daughter Lisa on her own. Catherine had this way of listening that made you feel like every word mattered. After the seminar, she stayed to ask questions about fire extinguishers for her school. We ended up talking for 2 hours about everything except fire safety. We married a year later. Lisa was 13 then, angry about the divorce, suspicious of me. I didn't try to be her father, she had one of those, even if he'd moved to Toronto and called maybe twice a year. I just tried to be present. I helped with homework, drove her to volleyball practice, taught her how to change a tire when she turned 16. Slowly, over the years, she started calling me Dad. Not because I asked her to, just because those were good years. Catherine would make dinner while I told stories about my day, the funny calls, the false alarms, never the bad ones. Lisa would roll her eyes at my jokes, but smile anyway. I coached a youth hockey team on my days off, taught CPR classes at the community center, did fire safety demonstrations at elementary schools where I'd dress up in full gear and let the kids spray the hose. Catherine used to say I had an army of people who knew me across the city. I'd laugh it off. I was just doing my job. I retired from the fire department in 2018. 32 years of service. They gave me a plaque, had a party at the station, and everyone said the usual things about how I'd be missed. I'd kept scrapbooks over the years, newspaper clippings about significant fires, thank you cards from families, photos from community events. 3 large binders sat in the drawer of my desk, organized by year. I never looked at them much. They just felt like, I don't know, like they should be saved, somehow. Evidence that I'd been here, that I'd mattered. Catherine got diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's 6 months after I retired. She was only 62. The doctors said we had time, maybe 5 to 7 years if we were lucky. We weren't lucky. The disease moved fast. By 2021, she didn't recognize me anymore. She'd look at me with these frightened eyes, asking for her mother who'd been dead 20 years. Lisa visited once a month, staying for an hour, making excuses about work and her family. Her husband, Craig, had a good job in finance. They had 2 kids, Dylan, 17, and Emma, 14. They lived in a new condo building in Yaletown, all glass and steel and expensive parking. Catherine died in January 2022. Pneumonia, complicated by the Alzheimer's. I held her hand in the hospital, and for just a moment at the end, she looked at me with clear eyes and whispered, "Thank you for the deck, James. It was beautiful." Then she was gone. The house felt too big after that, too quiet. But it was my house. I'd built it. Well, not literally built it, but I'd made it into something. The deck was still solid. I treated it every spring, just like I always had. I kept the house clean, maintained the garden, shoveled the walk in winter. I was 65, not dead. Lisa started visiting more after Catherine passed. At first, I thought she was checking on me, which I appreciated, but the visits had a pattern. She'd walk through the house making comments. "This kitchen is so outdated, Dad. When did you last replace the countertops?" Or, "The neighborhood's really changed. There was another break-in 2 blocks over." Or, "You're here all alone in 4 bedrooms. Don't you think that's excessive?" 3 months ago, she brought Craig over. They sat me down and talked about options. A condo downtown, closer to them, modern building with security. 1 bedroom, easy to maintain. "We've been looking," Lisa said, her voice bright and helpful. "There's a great place in our building. You could see the kids more often." I told them I appreciated the concern, but I was happy where I was. This was my home. I'd lived here 38 years. "But what if something happens?" Craig asked. He had that tone people use when they're trying to sound reasonable while pushing their agenda. "What if you fall? What if there's an emergency?" "I spent 32 years running toward emergencies," I said. "I think I can handle myself." They left disappointed. Lisa called a few days later, apologizing for Craig. "He means well," she said. "We're just worried." 2 weeks ago, Lisa called and asked if she could stop by with someone who could help with estate planning. I told her I didn't need estate planning. I had a will. Everything was in order. "It's more complicated than just a will, Dad," she said. "Please, just hear what he has to say, for Mom's sake." For Mom's sake. That was the line that got me. So I said yes, which brought us to today. Lisa and Mr. Harrison sitting on my couch, me standing by the fireplace, the afternoon light coming through the windows, hitting the photos on the mantle, Catherine and me on our wedding day, Lisa's high school graduation, Dylan and Emma as toddlers. Mr. Harrison pulled out a folder. "Mr. McLeod, I've reviewed your situation, and I believe a family trust would be in your best interest. Given your age and current living situation, it would provide protection for your assets and ensure your daughter's family can help manage your affairs if you become incapacitated." "I'm not incapacitated," I said. "Of course not," Lisa said quickly. "But Dad, you have to admit, you've been a bit forgetful lately. Remember last month when you left the stove on?" I had left the stove on. Once. I'd been making soup. The phone rang. It was someone from Catherine's old school, offering condolences 9 months late, but still, and I forgot to turn off the burner. The soup burned. The pot was ruined. It happened. "And you nearly fell on the ice in January," Lisa continued. "Thank God Dylan was there to catch you." I had slipped. Everyone slips on ice in Vancouver when we get those rare freezes. Dylan, bless him, had been visiting and grabbed my arm. I was fine. "These are normal things," I said. "They're warning signs," Mr. Harrison said, his voice smooth and clinical. "At your age, living alone in a large house, these incidents suggest diminished capacity. The family trust would protect you. Your daughter would be the trustee, managing the property on your behalf. You'd still live here, of course. But if something happens, if you need to move to assisted living or a care facility, the transition would be seamless." "I don't need assisted living." "Not now," Lisa said. "But maybe someday. And this house, Dad, it's worth over $2 million in this market. If something happened to you, if you needed expensive care, the house could be sold quickly without going through probate. It's just smart planning." $2 million. She'd had it appraised. Mr. Harrison slid papers across the coffee table. "I've prepared the documents. It's a simple transfer. Sign here, and here, and here." He pointed with a gold pen. "The trust is established, the house is protected, and everyone has peace of mind." I looked at the papers. Legal jargon, pages of it. "I need time to think about this." "There's nothing to think about," Lisa said, and there was an edge in her voice now. Craig and I have spent weeks looking into this. We've paid for Mr. Harrison's consultation. We're trying to help you. Why the rush? Because you're 65 and alone. Lisa's voice rose. Because this neighborhood isn't safe anymore. Because I'm trying to do what Mom would have wanted, and you're being stubborn. The room went quiet. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the one Catherine bought at an antique store in Steveston. It had belonged to a sea captain, supposedly. She loved that story. I need to review these with my own lawyer, I said. Mr. Harrison's smile tightened. Of course, but Mr. McLeod, I should mention, and I'm telling you this, as a professional, delays in these matters can be problematic. If your mental state deteriorates further, you might lose the legal capacity to sign. Then the courts would have to get involved. Much messier, much more expensive. Are you saying I'm losing my mind? I'm saying, he replied carefully, that at your age, with the incidents your daughter has described, it would be prudent to act while you still clearly have capacity. Lisa stood up. We've already found a condo for you, Dad. Ground floor, in our building. The movers can come next month. You'd be so much happier there. Closer to us, to the grandkids. You found a condo. You hired movers. Without asking me. Because we knew you'd say no. Because you're too attached to this place. But Dad, it's just a house. A house you can't maintain anymore. A house that's too big, too old, too much for you. She gestured around the living room. When's the last time you had people over? When's the last time you used the guest bedrooms? You're rattling around here alone, holding on to something that doesn't make sense anymore. Just a house. Catherine's voice echoed in my memory. Thank you for the deck, James. It was beautiful. I need you both to leave, I said quietly. Dad, please, leave. I'll review the papers. I'll think about it. But right now, I need you to leave. Mr. Harrison stood, smoothing his suit. We'll follow up in 48 hours, Mr. McLeod. But please understand, the longer you wait, the more complicated this becomes. They left. I stood in the living room for a long time after, listening to the house settle around me. Then I walked to my desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out the 3 scrapbooks. I hadn't looked at these in years. The first page of the first binder was a newspaper clipping from 1987. Family of 6 rescued from East Van House fire. There was a photo me in my gear, soot-streaked, carrying a little girl out of the smoke. I remembered that fire. The father had been trying to go back in for his kids. I'd grabbed him, told him I'd get them. I brought out all 4 children. The mother had sent me a Christmas card every year for a decade after. I flipped through the pages. 1993. Teenager saved from car crash on Highway 1. A drunk driver had hit a compact car, pushed it into the ditch. The driver was trapped, car filling with smoke from the engine fire. I'd been off duty, driving home, pulled over to help, used a tire iron from my truck to pry the door open, dragged him out seconds before the engine caught fully. His name was Marcus. He'd been 17, on his way to visit his girlfriend. He sent me a photo of his wedding 10 years later. 2001. Elderly couple rescued from apartment fire in Kitsilano. Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski, both in their 80s. Building had faulty wiring. I'd carried Mrs. Kowalski out. She couldn't walk, arthritis, while my partner got Mr. Kowalski. They'd invited me to their 60th anniversary party the next year. 2005. Quick action saves drowning child at Kitts Beach. I'd been teaching a CPR class at the community center nearby. Heard the screaming. 6-year-old boy went under, wasn't breathing when they pulled him out. I did CPR for 4 minutes before he coughed up water and started crying. His parents named their next child James. Page after page, 32 years of pages. Some rescues made the news. Most didn't. But I'd saved every thank you card, every photo, every letter. There were 156 incidents in these binders where I'd specifically saved someone's life or made a significant difference, not counting the hundreds of routine calls, the false alarms, the small helps that didn't make it into the scrapbooks. I sat at my desk until dark, reading through them. Then I made a phone call. McLeod. The voice on the other end was gruff and warm. Haven't heard from you in months. How the hell are you? I'm okay, Rob, I said. Rob Patterson had been my captain for 20 years, retired now, living in Coquitlam. Listen, I need to ask you something. Do you still have the old station contact list? Everyone we worked with over the years. Sure do. Keep it updated when I hear news. Why? I told him. The whole story. Lisa, the estate planner, the family trust, the condo they'd picked out. Rob was quiet for a long moment. Then, "That's some bullshit, James. You're sharp as ever. You need a lawyer? Maybe. But first, I need to show Lisa something. I need her to see." I looked at the scrapbooks spread across my desk. I need her to understand who I am, who I was, what this house means. What do you need me to do? Spread the word. To everyone you can reach. Tell them James McLeod needs his family. The real one. Consider it done. Over the next 2 days, Rob worked the phone tree. He called retired firefighters, who called the people they'd saved. They called the families from the CPR classes, the kids from the hockey teams, the parents from the school demonstrations. The word went out through Facebook groups and email chains and old-fashioned phone calls. James McLeod needs you. Saturday, 2 p.m., his house in East Vancouver. Lisa called twice. I let it go to voicemail. She left messages about Mr. Harrison waiting for my decision, about the condo holding fee, about how she was just trying to help. I didn't call back. Saturday morning, I got up early, made coffee, sat on the deck Catherine had loved. The wood was still solid under my feet. I'd treated it well. It would last another 20 years, easily. At 1:45, the first car pulled up. I watched through the window. A man in his 50s got out, walked up to my door. I opened it before he could knock. "Mr. McLeod?" He looked uncertain. "I'm Marcus Way. You probably don't remember me, but in 1993, you pulled me out of a burning car on Highway 1. I was 17. You saved my life." I did remember. The drunk driver, the compact car, the boy with the girlfriend. "I remember," I said. "You got married. Sent me a photo." His eyes widened. "You remember that?" "Of course. Mr. Patterson called my mom. Told her you needed help. I came as soon as I could." More cars were arriving now, pulling up along the street, filling my driveway, parking in the neighbors' yards with their permission. People getting out, walking toward my house. Young and old. Families with children. Couples holding hands. Men and women in firefighter dress uniforms. At 2 p.m., Lisa's Mercedes pulled up. She got out, saw the crowd, froze. Mr. Harrison was with her. They pushed through the people, gathering on my lawn. "Dad?" Lisa's voice was small. "What's going on?" "These are my people," I said. I was standing on the deck, and they were all there below me. 156 faces I recognized from the scrapbooks, plus their families, their children, their grandchildren. "These are the people who know me." A woman stepped forward. Sarah Chen, the little girl from the 1987 house fire. She was 40 years old now, had kids of her own. "I'm alive because of your father," she said to Lisa. "My whole family is alive because of him." Marcus spoke next. "He pulled me from a burning car. I have 3 kids now. They wouldn't exist without him." An elderly man, Mr. Kowalski, leaning on a cane. "My wife and I. He carried us out when everyone else gave up. Said we were too old, too slow. He came back for us." One by one, they spoke. 156 stories. Some took 30 seconds. Some took 2 minutes. Every single one ended the same way. "James McLeod saved my life." Lisa was crying. Mr. Harrison looked like he wanted to sink into the ground. A man pushed to the front. Professional suit, graying hair. "I'm David Thornton. I'm a real estate lawyer here in Vancouver. I've reviewed the documents Mr. Harrison prepared." He held them up. "This isn't a standard family trust. This is essentially a transfer of ownership with your daughter as sole beneficiary. If Mr. McLeod signed this, he'd have no legal claim to his own house." Another voice, older woman. "I'm Judge Patricia Morrison. Mr. McLeod taught fire safety at my grandson's school 15 years ago. Mr. Harrison, she turned to the estate planner. You're not licensed in British Columbia. I checked. You're a financial consultant who took a weekend seminar. What you're attempting here constitutes elder financial abuse under the criminal code. Mr. Harrison's face went white. He backed away, then literally ran to his car. Lisa stood in the middle of my lawn, surrounded by 156 lives I'd touched, plus their families, maybe 300 people total now. She looked up at me on the deck. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know you'd done all this. You never asked, I said. Not angry, just true. The condo Craig lost his job 6 months ago. We're drowning in debt. The building fees, the kids' private school, the car payments. I saw how much this house was worth, and I thought. She covered her face. I thought it was just a house. Just an old house you didn't need. Dylan pushed through the crowd then. My step-grandson. 17. Nearly a man. Mom, what did you do? I'm sorry, Lisa sobbed. I'm so sorry, Dad. I thought I was helping. I thought I was protecting you. But really I was just... She couldn't finish. Stealing from me, I said quietly. She flinched like I'd hit her, but she nodded. Yes. The crowd was quiet. Waiting. I looked at my stepdaughter. I'd known her since she was 12. I'd taught her to drive. Walked her down the aisle when her biological father couldn't be bothered to show up. Held her babies when they were born. She'd made a terrible choice. A cruel choice. But she was still Catherine's daughter. Still the girl who used to help me treat the deck every spring, who'd sit with me on it while we watched the sun go down. I'm not pressing charges, I said. But you need help, Lisa. Real help. Financial counseling. Therapy, maybe. You need to figure out how you got to a place where taking your father's home seemed like a reasonable option. I will, she whispered. I promise. And Dylan? I looked at my step-grandson. You're always welcome here. Anytime. This is still your family home? Dylan nodded, tears running down his face. Thanks, Grandpa. The crowd started to disperse slowly, but many stayed. Sarah Chen hugged me. Thank you for remembering me, Mr. McLeod. Thank you for remembering all of us. How could I forget? I said. Marcus's mother brought food from her restaurant. The Kowalskis' grandson set up tables. Someone brought a sound system. What had started as a confrontation turned into an impromptu party on my lawn. My deck, the one I'd built 40 years ago, the one Catherine had loved. Dylan stayed. He helped serve food, talked to the people who'd known his step-grandfather as a firefighter, as a teacher, as someone who'd made a difference. I watched him absorb it all, saw him looking at me differently. As the sun set, Rob Patterson found me sitting on the deck steps. Hell of a turnout, McLeod. Thanks for organizing it. I didn't organize anything, just made some calls. They came because they wanted to, because you mattered to them. He sat down next to me. Lisa's not a bad person. I know, but she needed to see this. Needed to understand that you're not just some old man living alone in a house too big for him. You're the man who built something, not just this house, but a whole network of lives you touched. I was just doing my job. That's what you always say. Rob smiled. But it was never just a job to you, and that's why all these people came. Dylan appeared with 2 plates of food. He sat on my other side, handed me one. We ate in comfortable silence, watching the last guest say goodbye, watching the sky turn purple over Vancouver. Grandpa, Dylan said eventually. Yeah? Will you teach me how to treat the deck? Mom said you and Grandma Catherine used to do it every spring. I looked at my step-grandson, 17 years old, probably embarrassed by his mother's actions, probably confused about family and trust and what it all meant. But he was here, and he wanted to learn. I'd be happy to, I said. We'll do it in April. I'll show you how to sand it properly, how to apply the treatment so it lasts. Your grandmother always said the secret was in the details. Can I ask you something else? Sure. All those people today, all those stories, why didn't you ever tell us? Why didn't Mom know? I thought about that. I guess because I didn't think it mattered. It was my job. I did it, and then I came home to your grandmother. That was the part I cared about, the home part. But it does matter, Dylan said quietly. It matters a lot. 3 months later, on a sunny April morning, Dylan and I treated the deck together. I showed him how to sand with the grain, how to wipe away the dust, how to apply the sealant in long, even strokes. He was patient and careful, asked questions when he wasn't sure, didn't try to rush it. Lisa came by in the afternoon with Emma. We had coffee on the freshly treated deck. It wasn't comfortable, yet we were all still healing from what had happened. But it was a start. "I've been seeing someone," Lisa said. "A therapist. We're talking about Mom's death, about how I processed it, or didn't process it, doctor. Kim says, I was trying to control the situation with you because I couldn't control what happened with Mom." She paused. "That doesn't excuse it." "No," I agreed. "But it explains it. I'm selling the condo. We're moving to a smaller place, getting our finances under control. Craig's got a new job, pays less, but it's steady. We're going to be okay." "Good." Emma, my step-granddaughter, was quiet through all this. Finally, she looked up from her phone. "Can I see the scrapbook sometime, Grandpa James?" "Of course. Mom said there are 156 people you saved. Give or take. That's a lot of people. It was a long career." She nodded, processing this. Then, "I'm glad you didn't sell the house." "Me too, sweetheart." After they left, Dylan and I sat on the deck, admiring our work. The wood gleamed in the afternoon sun, ready for another year, another season. "You know what's weird?" Dylan said. "Before all this happened, I thought you were just my grandfather who lived alone in an old house. Now I know you're this guy who saved all these people. But you're still just my grandfather who lives alone in an old house." I laughed. Both things can be true. "Yeah?" He was quiet for a moment. "I want to be like you, I think. When I grow up, someone who matters." "You already matter, Dylan. You know what I mean. Someone who helps people. Someone who builds things that last." He gestured at the deck. "Like this. The deck Catherine had loved. That I'd built with my own hands 40 years ago. That would last at least another 20 years if we kept treating it right. That now Dylan knew how to maintain." I thought about all the things I'd built in my life. This house, this deck, the relationships with 156 people I'd saved, the family I'd gained when I married Catherine. The way Dylan was looking at the world now, seeing possibilities for who he could become. Some things you build with wood and nails. Some things you build by showing up, day after day, doing the work, helping when you can. Both kinds of building matter. Both kinds last, if you do them right. "Come on," I said to Dylan. "Let's go make dinner. I'll teach you your grandmother's recipe for shortbread." "The Scottish one?" "The Scottish one." We went inside, leaving the deck to dry in the afternoon sun, solid and strong under our feet, ready to hold us up for all the years to come.